Okay, we're live.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Shunotra, and I'm joined with my colleague Malvika Rajkumar. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of employment contracts in private sector organizations, and to take you over some of the key terms and phrases that are used in these employment contracts. Now, before we begin, the first thing I think you need to know is that there are different kinds of employments in India. And depending on the sector you work in, either be it public sector or private sector, different laws apply to you and different in different scenarios accordingly. Now, the sad truth of the matter is that most of these laws and protections that are available to workmen in Indian law specifically is in public sector organizations and for industrial workmen. There are very few laws that actually govern private sector organizations. You'll have some financial like laws and like regulations applying to you, but as for protections as an employee, most of it is governed under your employment contract. Now, as I said, in an urban setting, urban private sector setting, your employment contract is like your holy grail. Now, this is why it's very important for you to know the different terms in like mentioned in your contract and understand the significance of each of these terms to ensure that your rights are getting protected, like your rights are all protected. Now, I'll explain the importance of employment contracts in detail in a bit. But for now, Malvika will take you over some of the things that happen before we start working. That's getting a job offer, accepting that offer, and some important formalities around it.
Yeah. So in terms of what happens when you get a job offer, so when an employer is willing to hire you and gives you a job offer, they have to make sure that they do three things. One is communication of the offer. Second is a job role and the terms of the job have to be explained. And thirdly, salary and other benefits have to be discussed. So in terms of communication of the offer, usually offers are communicated over the phone or it's told to you verbally, but it's best to get it in writing so that it's easier to prove later that an offer indeed existed and that it's there. And in terms of a job role and terms of a job, so during a discussion with your employer, there will be an offer made to you which will be for a specific role or position. And if the role is not determined very clearly, it will reflect on your job when you eventually join. You should also make sure that your job role, annual cost to company, CTC, benefits, monthly salary, etc., all of this is given so that later there won't be any issues if there is a dispute. Then moving on to salary and other benefits. Now, the salary of the kind of employment you're going into depends on the nature of the employment that you're going into. Let me give you an example. Salaries are calculated based on the market rate for a particular job. For example, a lawyer will have a particular market rate for practicing in the district court versus a doctor will have a different salary rate if he or she is working in a hospital. So you have the option to negotiate your salary amount since it's a contract, and this is the consideration that you're getting. And you can also negotiate what you're bringing to the organization by doing your own market research. So market research becomes very important when you want to know what is the minimum amount of salary a person in your position would be getting. And sometimes if you are a salaried employee, your total salary will be broken up under different heads such as basic pay, dearness allowance, provident fund deduction, house rent allowance, etc. You can find the description of all of these in our explainer. But let's say that you are not an employee, that then you may be a professional, and in such scenarios professionals get, they don't get a salary, they get something known as a retainership fee, and both of these things are taxable under Indian law. Now, after the job offer has been communicated to you, depending on your circumstances, you can always negotiate for additional benefits, a higher salary, or a better position. Now, sometimes a job may be given to you at a particular time, and the employer may tell you to respond within a particular time. So this means if you respond after, then your job may lapse. In case a specific time period is not given and you don't you haven't asked for it, a reasonable time to reply is what should be practiced. Now, when you accept your job offer in writing, it becomes very important because all the details will be given in the contract itself. You can accept the job after negotiations, because once you accept the contract and you sign it, it means you're adhering to all the points in the contract. So you will need to read the terms carefully before accepting it. Now, you can also write an acceptance letter by email or writing so that it's recorded somewhere. And you can also, once you sign your contract, it is also you're accepting the job given to you. Now, in terms of time limit for acceptance, again, there may be a time limit specified to you, there may not be, but you have to reply within a reasonable time. Sometimes employers can also ask you to give certain documents to them. Some examples are relieving letter, that is a signed document from your previous employer that states that you're no longer associated with them. They can also ask you for a work reference, which may be basically coming from your contact of your ex-employer, who will verify and explain the quality of your work and the character of your work, character while you were an employee there. They may ask you for pay slips so that they can cross-check the salary amount you were getting in your previous employment. Resumes, educational documents, government ID proofs, these are all commonly asked. Police clearance certificate is also something some employees ask for, because sometimes the employers may actually do this police verification to check if there are any previous or existing criminal records that you have. And they may also ask for your bank details and a blank check so that they can pay you by check if that's the method of transfer. But a lot of documents are usually asked. Now, Shanotra will move on to what is the importance of a written contract.
Yeah, so as I said before, like your contract is the most important thing if you're in a private sector organization. And once you've accepted a job offer, always make sure that you're given a written contract, a written employment contract, and you ask for one if one is not being given to you. And then, like after you've like basically just after you receive this contract, ensure that you read each and every term of this terms of the contract. It's these terms of the contract that will later determine what your rights are going to be and what your duties or what your obligations towards that particular organization are going to be. Now, while the exact contents of these of the contract may differ from organization to organization, there are certain things that are the key ingredients that are there in all of the things that we will go over. We'll go over most of them today. Now, as Malvika said, the first thing that some details that were mentioned in your offer letter are going to be reproduced in your employment contract. Things like your job description, the employment period, for how long you're going to be given employment for, how long your contract is for, then your salary and other allowances. Then some extra details that are going to be in your contract are basically the number of holidays and leaves that you will be entitled to, whether you'll be covered under insurance, then some clauses which are also known as restrictive clauses like confidentiality clause, non-compete, solicitation, non-solicitation. These Malvika will explain in detail as to what these are. Then terms like if you want to exit from your employment, like what notice period do you have to give, what do you do in case there's a dispute with your employer. There are arbitration clauses. Then there are clauses that talk about what kind of taxes would apply to you, like what kind of deductions would there be in your salary. Would there be a PF deduction? Would you get overtime pay? What is the overtime policy? What is the work from home policy? All of these details are generally, all of them are solidified in your contract. Now, as I had mentioned before, since there are no laws in India that there are very few laws in India that govern private sector organization, your employment contract is the law. Like it is a contract like any other contract, where both you and your employer are equal parties coming together and getting into a contract, getting into an agreement that this is something that you are going to do. Often you'll find in India that there is this whole thing about there is this notion associated that if you've gotten a job, like, you're not just an employee, you're kind of like you belong to the organization, which is not very true. Once you get into an employment contract, as I said, you both are equal parties. You are bringing your work to the table, and your employer is paying you for the services you offer them, be it as an employee, be it as a retainer that Malvika mentioned. It's just you really, and in order to ensure that you feel confident in a workplace, in order you feel confident to enforce your rights, you really need to read all of the terms of your agreement, and you really need to understand them carefully, understand what are the possible implications of these terms, and negotiate if you find something to be unfair. You have that power to do that. It's not something that's set in stone that if you don't sign it, you're not going to get a job. Like, you, again, as I said, you are offering your services for a fee that your employer is going to give you. Now, some one thing that I missed out was in the uh, contents of the employment contract. Some organizations may also ask you to sign a training bond with them. Now, training bonds are basically like indemnity bonds that you will work for them for a certain period, and they will train you for the job that you are going to be working in. Now, so basically, now once you've read all of these conditions in detail, you go ahead, and once you sign it, you are, as I said, like, as this is a contract, you are legally bound by all the terms, and it's just like any other contract. If you violate any of these terms, you can either be fired or legal action can be taken against you for breach of contract. Now, Malika, I'll just take you over some of the restrictive terms, which are a bit complicated. If you want to know about the rest of the contents that I just mentioned, you can always check our website. We have explained many clauses of and contents of employment contract on our website. Yeah, Malika, I'll just take you over the restrictive ones right now that people generally find a bit confusing.
Yeah, so restrictive contracts are basically certain clauses or terms in your agreement that in some way restrict you to a certain degree from carrying on a business, trade, or profession either during or after the employment. Now, in India, you have the fundamental right to practice any trade, profession, or business, but the restrictive contracts come into play because there has to be certain level of competition in the market. So let me explain to you the most common restrictive contracts clauses, which you should definitely know about, because if you violate these, there's a high possibility that according to the terms of your contract, you may end up in court or definitely have to pay a fine for this. One very important restrictive clause is the confidentiality clause. It's also sometimes known as a non-disclosure clause. Now, why does this confidentiality clause actually exist? So an organization or a company that you are employed with has a right to protect its trade secrets or other confidential business dealings. So there is usually a clause in your employment contract that restricts you from sharing or disclosing any confidential information of your employer to anyone outside the organization. This is the confidentiality clause. Now, when does this actually apply to you? This definitely applies to you while you are working there, but it also applies to you after you stop working there. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you were working with P&G and you left that job and you were given a job with Unilever, but you will not be restricted from taking up the job with Unilever, but you cannot disclose any sort of trade secrets of P&G to Unilever because it is exclusive to P&G, your previous company. So let's say that you don't have a confidentiality agreement clause in your contract. Even then, as a rule of thumb, it's best to not share trade secrets, because there have been many cases where people have been sued for criminal breach of trust despite not having a confidentiality clause in their agreement. Another very important restrictive clause is known as the non-compete clause. Now, a non-compete clause in an employment contract actually restricts an employee from competing with their employer in the same or similar area of business as the employer. Let me give you an example. Let's say that let's say that you are actually in the business of manufacturing air purifiers with a specific technology. Then, like, I cannot come and start a rival business with the exact same technology. That would not that would be a violation of your non-compete clause, and this can happen even after you leave the office. Now let's look at another important restrictive clause, which is known as non-solicitation clause. Now, as the term suggests, you cannot poach your coworkers or your clients. So if there is a non-solicitation clause in your agreement, you cannot enlist other employees of the company for any business, trade, or profession that you would actually start, because this would harm the interest of the company itself. So let's say that there's an organization called AYS working in computers, and let's say one of the employees decide to start his own organization and decide to recruit all his co-workers to come and join his organization. He will definitely get in trouble under this clause. Then there's also a concept of poaching of clients, which is talked about widely. This is a highly territorial issue, and there have been a lot of case laws on this. So you have to be extremely careful. This is a violation. Poaching clients of the company that you were associated with is a violation of your contract. And let's say that you are leaving your company to join a competitive company, or you want to start your own. Definitely taking clients of the workplace with you is a problem. This can definitely lead to you getting taken to court. So an example is, if let's say someone named Lokesh from a company is leaving to start his own company, he cannot take the clients which he used to work with and go and start the company. He will get in trouble with his previous employer. Now, Shanotra mentioned what training bonds are in nugget size informations. Basically, sometimes the employer may ask you to sign a training bond because they're providing training or support to you, and in return they want to utilize that knowledge for the company itself. So sometimes in contracts, for example, with commonly with graphic designers, you see there are training bonds which say that if you will have to stay within the company for 2 years, and if you don't, then you will have to pay a certain amount of money. So in training bonds especially, violation of a training bond can lead to you paying the company some money, since they're investing in you. But at the same time, if your contract has a training bond which is highly impractical, you have an option to negotiate this also before you accept the job. So make sure you ask the company about their training bond policies before you actually take up the job, because once you do, then you will be bound by the bond. Now Shanotra will explain some more aspects of employment contract.
Just a few last things to go over for the time when you either quit your job or your employer terminates your employment. This will be covered in the notice period section or notice period clause of your contract. Now, it would say the notice period clause would either say either if you want to leave or if your employer wants to terminate, either of you who is invoking this clause will have to give them notice for a specific period before the date you wish to end the contract. Now, this period is usually between 1 and 3 months. Again, it differs from organization to organization. While like mostly the trend is to keep it 1 month, some people ask for 3 months, some people ask for 6 months. Now, the thing about this is that notice period is that like I said, like I mentioned before, it like a contract. When you wish to terminate it, you have to follow the protocol, like the protocol mentioned in the contract to end it as well. So similarly, notice period is your exit clause that you have to like properly execute in order to leave the company, or you have to basically, if your employer wishes to terminate your employment, both of you have to do it. Both of you have to follow this through. If not, if this is not followed properly, you can go ahead and if you're, say for example, your employer does not give you a notice period and terminates your employment within 1 week, when actually your notice period requires says 1 month's worth of notice to be given to you, you can like take your employer to court. You can file a case of breach of contract. That is something that like where you would be protected. And same goes for the employer as well. Like if you want to leave, and if you give them a notice period, notice which is less than the period mentioned in your contract, the employer as well can take action again, legal action against you. Now the thing is, specifically in cases of part where you're getting fired from your job, or when your employer is terminating your employment, it may usually happen for one of the two reasons: either that you violated a term of your contract, like either you violated one of the restrictive clauses, or something specifically mentioned that you required you to do or not do something and you did the opposite, or it might be because of a workplace related dispute. Now, by workplace related dispute, I mean either you are, say, convicted of a criminal activity, or convicted of a sexual harassment at a workplace case, or so on. Like if you want a detailed list of understanding of what are the conditions that you may be fired in and what is it that you can do under these circumstances, you can have a look at our website, nyaya.org. But in such situations where you feel that you have unfairly been fired, as I said like before, private sector is not very well regulated, so most of it is going to be reliant, like most of the terms are going to be reliant on your contract. You can go ahead and basically use the terms of your contract to ensure that you don't, if you think that you're being fired for a reason that is not fair, or it's not fair to you, you can go ahead and ask a lawyer and figure out how you can initiate action against your employer for breach of contract. Simultaneously, what you can do is that if there is a trade union in your office, you can approach them to make a representation for you, to make your case that you were unjustly fired or you were wrongfully terminated, and negotiate accordingly with your employer. Now, this is one thing that you really need, like you can always check up on how, what is who's the trade union in your office, or if your office has a trade union in the first place. So basically what Malvika and I did today was just go over a few of the terms of your of an employment contract that you really need to know of in order to ensure that you are protected at your workplace. To know more in detail, you can definitely look up at our website, nyaya.org, and we have a special segment for employment contracts. And if you feel that there is something that we've not covered, or if you want to ask us a question privately, you can either leave a comment under this video, or you can go to the Ask Nyaya tab on our website and leave a question there. And if anything in relation to your employment contracts. Hope you had a good session. Good night.
Good night.